Right, let's do this then.
This is the Jeff and Bill Show.
I don't agree with that.
They don't always agree, but hey, at least they have coffee.
Coffee.
And each other.
I love you, man.
God help us.
I want to bless him. We need all the help we can get.
Now here's Jeff Hunt and Bill Thorpe. The Jeff and Bill Show on News Talk 710 KNUS.
It is 9 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Wednesday, October 29th, 2025. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Well, the debate over the government shutdown in many ways has to do with Obamacare and Democrats wanting to extend the subsidies in an effort to keep premiums low. What is going on? Wall Street Journal with an interesting piece out. The GOP's Obamacare opportunity, they write. The federal government shutdown is stretching into its fourth week, and the press is missing an important story of the impasse. Despite longtime Democratic political dominance on health care, more voters may be noticing for the first time in years that the Affordable Care Act is a debacle that has made care worse and more expensive. Democrats keep voting against opening the government or even for GOP bills to pay some federal workers. They assume they can extort the GOP in extending enriched Obamacare subsidies that were sold as temporary pandemic support. You can understand how Democrats got this idea. The Wall Street Journal writes, since the GOP failed to repeal the Affordable Care Act in 2017, Democrats and the press have shut down GOP debate about health care by warning that those with pre-existing conditions will be uninsured and destitute without ever growing subsidies. Yet this Democratic doom loop isn't having its usual effect this time, and that's in part because the party is unintentionally reminding voters of the law's manifest failures and bad incentives. Take a recent social media post from Democrat Senator Amy Klobuchar of Minnesota. If Republicans don't extend the turbocharged subsidies, she warned, early retirees like Bill and Shelley will see their health insurance premiums increase nearly 300%, from $442 to $1,700. Wait, the Wall Street Journal writes, early retirees? This is a tacit admission that Obamacare encourages Americans to stop working. The Biden subsidies turbocharged that incentive by making subsidies larger and available even to those with incomes above 400% of the poverty line. That's right. We are subsidizing Obamacare with your tax dollars and my tax dollars so that people can get cheaper health insurance when they live 400% above the poverty line. The couple in Ms. Klobuchar's example had north of $130,000 of income in 2024, mostly from pensions. So do taxpayers, many of whom pay for their own coverage at work, want to underwrite baby boomer early retirement? Maybe the politics here aren't as obvious as Democrats assume. So let's talk Obamacare subsidies this hour. Is it critical to continue to fund them at the level they are? This didn't happen until 2021, when following COVID and based upon COVID, Democrats made the argument that we need to extend those subsidies further than just the people that were around the poverty line. We're going to take it to now 400% of the poverty line. They had them expire in 2025, and the question now is, should we continue those subsidies? To me, that makes all the argument that Obamacare is a failure. We've become now dependent upon the government to provide our health care. We constantly criticize these people that run our government as being driven by special interests, not particularly intelligent, and we've now handed our health care to them, and put ourselves in this situation where the government is shut down over debates regarding subsidies to keep health care affordable. Obamacare has always been a boondoggle. Now it's on full display. And Republicans do have an opportunity to fight back against this. Bill, what is your thoughts? What are your thoughts?
Yeah. Obviously, I see it differently. All of us receive subsidized health care. Every single one of us does, unless you're buying it on your own privately in the market. Because either, based on the systems right now, either the government or your employer is subsidizing your healthcare costs, one or the other. And so as long as we are going to operate under this system that I think is fundamentally broken, I am not willing to tell Americans that you're going to go without health care. And that's what would have to happen. And what I mean by that is, if we're like, oh my gosh, we're spending too much government money on this health care, and then we're going to cut off, let's just say we just spike the entire Affordable Care Act, and there are going to be millions of people that won't be able to buy insurance. It doesn't mean they're going to stop getting sick or hurt. They're just going to show up at the emergency rooms, and then taxpayers are going to be on the hook to pay for that at the most expensive dollar point possible, unless we are going to go back in our history, and this did happen early on in my life, where you would be refused at a hospital if you didn't have insurance. We wouldn't care for you. So if that's the direction that we want to go as a society and a country, we should have that discussion about whether or not we ever should give someone health care if they don't have insurance. If we've decided that we will never, ever refuse health care to someone, then I think the question is about how we are paying for it. And I would assume that a capitalist society would want to make the purchasing of that as efficient and lowest cost possible. And so that would assume, again, in our system, they need some form of insurance or care, because that's the only way to lower that base cost. So that's the question. The base question of this is, do we want to refuse care to people? And if not, should we pay for it in something that is more efficient? It's kind of what we're looking at.
Do you believe that there should be universal health care, single payer, universal government-run health care?
Here's the thing is, I do believe that at this point, single payer has proven to be the most effective. And I do want to see it. What I would do is go around and look at other countries that have a hybrid system. I always go back to something like Germany, which does have private insurance, but it's mandated that you have it, and there are punishments therein. So the individual is actually buying the plan, not getting it from your employer. And so we don't even function here on a free market, because you don't get to choose who your employer is or who your healthcare is. Your employer chooses who provides your healthcare. So we already have a system in which some overlord sitting in a office decides the parameters of your available healthcare. We're already under a controlled system. So the idea of universal single payer, the thing that draws me in that direction is I see greater efficiencies inside the market. I see those countries paying less per capita and getting better results. And if that is true based on the statistics, I want to know what they're doing right. I'm not saying I would go in and adopt their system wholeheartedly, but I would want to know, what are they doing right that we are paying more and getting worse outcomes?
I'm not sure we're paying more in the sense of taxes. You pay more taxes in Germany than you do in America.
But no, our per capita healthcare spend. I'm not talking taxes. I'm talking our per capita. But
that's part of the equation. So if you're going to look at Germany, for instance, and go, well, they've got this great system, okay, you're going to pay an effective rate 12% higher than you are here in the United States.
Okay, because here's the idea, but the healthcare cost is going to be lower. So the money that you're currently paying for insurance and healthcare wouldn't exist. And if we take that and say that it would be 12% higher, if your employer no longer had to subsidize your healthcare, well, that's part of your compensation package. Shouldn't that then be translated into dollars and cents that go into your account? Now, granted, Our employers are not going to want to do that at all. But when they put us down on the balance sheet and look at our total expenditures, you better believe the cost for our healthcare, both individually and as a group, is on the debit side of things. It is a cost they incur based on us, and they factor that into your compensation. So that's where that money comes from, not having to pay for that. So that's where it would go. And again, even though under somewhere like a Germany and higher taxes, they pay less per person to provide healthcare. That's it. I mean, it's just more efficient as far as the system.
You think it's better healthcare?
It depends again on how we define better. If better is, I want to have a large suite of doctors that are going to have beautiful offices and they're going to give me massages and things like that in there, that would not be necessarily applicable. But if they get better outcomes, of which the vast majority of the developed world gets versus us, yeah, it would be considered better.
What do you mean by better outcomes? Like cancer survival rates?
Life expectancy rates, things like that. Life expectancy rates,
and
stuff
you
like
attribute that directly to healthcare, not necessarily lifestyle?
It would be one and the same. It'd be together because, again,
I mean,
lifestyle.
Yeah, I'm wondering if we live the same. I think we have a higher obesity rate than Germany does.
Yeah,
I'm just guessing.
But part
I think
of it,
we have
part
one
of it
of the
would
highest
be
obesity rates in the
part of it
world.
would be that maybe if we went to the doctor a little more often, some of those early indicators of diabetes could be headed off. Some of those early issues based on nutrition could be headed off. Some of those early indications of sickness could be avoided.
You think that's the problem? We just don't see the doctors enough? That's why we have an obesity problem?
I know that's part of what happens inside of it. But yeah, and especially because, remember, these are people that are on assistance. And so sometimes, or not on assistance, and so sometimes they don't necessarily go to the doctor. So the idea of not seeing the doctor isn't going to help. But yeah, that absolutely helps. And if it didn't, then why does your doctor every year follow your growth chart and look at your obesity? That happened every year with my kids, and sometimes twice a year.
Are you sure they go to the doctors more often? I'm not sure they do. But
not saying go. I'm just saying.
The best line in that Wall Street Journal piece is the Democratic doom loop, which has been created with Obamacare. And this goes back time and time again that once you create a government program, the sky is falling, Chicken Little response to getting rid of it keeps them, and they become these boondoggles that require more and more money, provide fewer and fewer services, and it becomes a disaster. I mean, look at what we're doing around Obamacare. The subsidies that have to go into it are skyrocketing with this argument that somebody that gets $130,000 in income isn't going to be able to afford a premium increase, even though they're 400% above the poverty line. This wasn't Obamacare's original plan. This was created in 2021 around the pandemic, and now the Democrats are running around going, if we don't continue this, it's just going to get worse and worse for everybody. So now we're in this doom loop of essentially single-payer health care that I don't think we can get out of. And Obamacare has been a disaster.
Now, if we want to talk about the means testing, I can have an argument that maybe someone that is 400% should have a much smaller subsidy and much less assistance. We can talk about that, but that doesn't discount everybody else below needing that assistance. So just because the people on the high end might not need as much, it doesn't prove that the rest of the program isn't necessarily effective nor working.
All right, join the conversation. Would love to hear from you. 303-696-1971. Has Obamacare worked? Do you have Obamacare? Do you appreciate paying your tax dollars so that somebody on $130,000 of income, 400% above the poverty line, doesn't have to pay as much in their health care? And should Republicans stand strong against this, or are Democrats right to raise it? Join the conversation, 303-696-1971. Text us on the Dan Capitalist Law text line at 720-819-5115. Now it's time, though, for news and comment with Blake Olson.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, news and comment.
Hey, Hey, good Wednesday morning, 30 and sunny, expecting a high of 61 today. News sponsored by Pastor Camp Heating and Air Conditioning at 303-777-1234 to learn more about special savings opportunities on Lennox equipment. Our top story, House Speaker Johnson this morning says Democrats are the only reason the federal government is shut down.
You have seen the highlight reel of all of them stumbling into admitting that, and yet they're also incoherently claiming that the shutdown is somehow on the fault of the other party, and the people aren't buying it.
No, we aren't. Day 29, there's no end in sight as a 13th effort to end the shutdown impasse failed Tuesday in the Senate, and there's no plans to vote on the measure today. The Trump administration says the military will be paid, but thousands of air traffic controllers have missed their first full paycheck. Food assistance benefits are also set to expire for millions of Americans this weekend. Half of the states are suing the Department of Agriculture over the impending cutoff, but the department says the money just isn't there. The Schumer shutdown.
Now, there's a misguided strategy that the Democrats are pursuing right now, and it reveals two important things that can't be glossed over. Number one, it shows they have no cards to play except to try to blame the other team, which is ridiculous, and it shows how little they think of the American people.
All right, the Fed expected to cut interest rates today as inflation slows. South Korea and the U.S. have reached a trade deal. DJT and South Korean President Lee Jae-myung agreed on a deal this morning that involves a $200 billion cash investment in the U.S., followed by $150 billion in cooperative shipbuilding led by South Korean companies. DJT in South Korea.
I just wanted to thank you. You rolled out a red carpet that was a very good red carpet, a beautiful red carpet, and giving me the honor of that magnificent piece of art, because it really was a piece of art that you presented to me today, and to be the first president of the United States that got that was really something very special. So,
yeah, they gave him a gold crown, so the lefties will lose their minds today. He'll meet with Xi Jinping tomorrow, the leader of China in South Korea. Damage assessments underway in Jamaica after Hurricane Melissa slammed into the island Tuesday as a powerful Category 5 storm. And NBC George Solis, the reporter from Kingston, says that while the capital was spared, the worst, other parts of Jamaica were hit hard.
Officials quickly working to restore some power there, some cell phone towers, so communications can begin. Still no question on when people may be able to fly home, especially for those tourists that are stranded there, about 23,000 at last check.
Melissa is moving across eastern Cuba where flash flooding is reported and will soon be back in the Atlantic Ocean as it heads toward the Bahamas. The top Border Patrol agent overseeing Operation Midway Blitz in Chicago has to meet with a federal judge every day for every day of the week. U.S. Customs and Border Protection Commander Gregory Bovino agreed to meet with Judge Sarah Ellis at 6 p.m. daily during the week to give her updates until a preliminary injunction hearing next week. Bovino is accused of violating a temporary restraining order blocking federal agencies from using certain tactics. Lefty judges. They're all over the place, just like in the media, the lefties. Senator John Kennedy, make me laugh.
I thought to myself, even duct tape can't fix stupid. I don't know Miss Wallace. I watched
Nicole Wallace.
Her a little bit. I remember when she worked for President Bush. I suppose she's not as bad as some members of the liberal media, but that's faint praise. That's like it's like being the smartest person on The View. I'm going to give Ms. Wallace the benefit of the doubt and assume that she said what she said right after her morning beer.
I think I had my morning beer this morning, so I'm going to apologize to Avs fans. I am so sorry. I was looking at the wrong screen. Victor Olofsson, his first career NHL hat trick last night.
Drury gives it up. Shot, score! Victor Olofsson, the hat trick. He gets it.
Yeah, 8-4 Avalanche after the Swede scores
don't mess
the hat
with
trick.
them Avalanche fans. We were hearing all about it, the amount of text messages.
Bet. You need to tell me live. You need to just cut in and say, hey, you had your morning beer. They won last night. Man, I'm sorry. I got caught up in everything else, and I was thinking 2 nights ago they lost, and honestly, I was just kind of tap dancing there, so I apologize. But Olofsson, sure, he was celebrating last night with Ludafisk and Lefse. So great job by the Swede and the Avalanche with the big 8-4 victory. Love you, Avalanche fans. You guys are awesome. World Series, top of the third, Shohei Ohtani, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. at the plate against Ohtani, and there is one man on base. Jays down 1-0.
Hit well to deep left center. And this one will go. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. lines one into the seats in left center, and the Blue Jays take the lead.
Yeah, he rocks that one, and the Jays beat the Dodgers 6-2 final, Game 4 of the World Series, and back at it tonight for Game 5 in L.A. at Chavez Ravine. 27 in Castle Pines, 29 in Westminster, 30 in Denver. Jeff and Billy continue. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Cool but sunny weather on tap for this Wednesday for Denver in the Front Range. Going to be a nice stretch of autumn weather to take us through the rest of the week, through Halloween and into the weekend. Temperatures will be 50s to near 60 degrees. Clear tonight, low to mid-30s. Mostly sunny and 50s Thursday, near 30 Thursday night. We will have a few more clouds on Halloween. Halloween, we're sideswiped by a front, but it will just produce clouds, keep us cool in the low 50s. But we're going to warm to the 60s, even some 70-degree temperatures possible this weekend. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
The government shutdown centered around this debate regarding Obamacare subsidies. All right, so healthcare has increased way above inflation rates have, right? 162% since 2000. Costs have gone up. That's way above the inflation rate. I see it as government intervention, highly regulated, subsidized situation, and that is the perfect recipe for inflationary costs to healthcare far above traditional inflation rates. That's part of the reason why. And I just don't understand running into this going, more government, more involvement, more regulations, more taxes, more subsidies, Obamacare, single payer. It's the services are getting worse. The costs are going up. And Democrats continue to want to double down on the idea of higher subsidies for Obamacare to the tune of people 400% above the poverty rate now getting subsidies to keep their Obamacare rates down. Let's go to the phone lines. Larry, Denver. Good morning, Larry. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Morning.
Yeah. How you guys doing?
Good. Hope you're doing well.
Yeah.
What's on your mind?
All right. I just want to say this. I'm looking at Republicans have been saying for 15 years, and it only comes up during the election cycles, that they had a plan to do something, other than Obamacare. They've been promising people that, but it only come up during the election cycle. So Jeff and Bill, and that's 15 years. I'm going to ask you guys are married now. So if you were dating your wife your now wife, for 15 years with the promise to marry her. And, and then that never came about. What would they conclude what your intentions are?
Larry, that's fair. Here's the question I have for you. If the Republican response is we don't want government intervention subsidizing insurance rates, and we're going to work to make the rates more transparent, those types of things, would you see that as a plan? Or are you looking for the government to provide the plan and you just want Republicans to provide a better government plan?
What I want to do is that when the issue came up, when the issue was a long time ago, the healthcare system put out, and this is true when Bill talk about stats, when they were saying we would not insure your baby because we feel like your baby is obese. They had all of these things lined up why they wouldn't insure. That was the issue. So they were really in bed. They wasn't taking care of us. So they were saying, and then, all these things had to come up and block these people because they were trying to save money. It wasn't about taking care of the people. They were just lining up. You can't have this. You can't have this. And you have
pre-existing conditions. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And lifetime limit caps. Yeah.
So exactly. So right now, what happens is that I'm looking at, we go to our healthcare. We had just this situation. When you say that it's the best healthcare, I got a cousin in Florida. He goes to the emergency room. They get ready to send him home because he's having a condition, but he had a heart condition from before, and he had some kind of plan in there. And then they just sent him home where you have this. And then his wife had to say, you can call the police, but we're not leaving here. And then end up, he had a leak in his heart, but they had to say, but again, where the healthcare system, and we experience this all the time, you got to fight them because they'll send you home, they won't look at. So when you're saying this is the best, we're paying good money right now. And so the system, so some of the Republicans are saying we got the best. No, it's getting worse.
Now, Larry,
but Larry, do you think, though, that if the government ran the healthcare system, it would get better? You'd have a higher quality of care?
Look, all is not. Like we're always saying, whatever we come up with, it always got to be pruned. It always got to be evaluated. But right now, you keep what I hear you saying is just totally out. But there's no conversation because when Obama or whatever came in, I'm telling you, it's useful to me. I remember when I had to retire because I got injured, and then what was happening, I couldn't afford at the time because you used what they call it, the COBRA.
Yeah, COBRA when you leave.
Expensive. Yeah, but the Obamacare, that took the edge off. I could get in there without really having, and that was so valuable to me at the time. So there's a lot of good things, but also if you got a system and the system, because the Republican states say we're not going to put in, so to say that it doesn't work, it don't work because they're saying we're not going to support it any kind of way. So I don't know if it would have worked if it was given a chance.
Yeah,
so
but Larry, the point I'm trying to make, though, is we found ourselves in a position right now in 2025 where healthcare is getting more expensive, and to your point, I think the quality of care is going down. And my argument is that we've been put in this place because of government interference. And what Democrats want to do is go more government interference. I see it the same way I see a minimum wage. Look, Denver has minimum wage laws. And restaurants can't stay open. No one can be employed. And Democrats, they want more minimum wage, more regulation. Rather than freeing up the market to work the way it should, you have government intervention and quality of care is going down and everything's getting more expensive. It's not just healthcare. You see it in housing. You see it in higher education. And government regulation and incentives and the supplemental costs that come in from the government to cover these costs are part of the problem that's generating all these problems. I think.
And Jeff, I would say that. Can I just say this one piece right here? And then what I never So what I have an issue with, I just never hear in saying that, I just never hear when it's said that some pieces of government can help. But I'm going to put this piece here, and this is where we're at. You know, Amazon just announced that it's going to lay off 14,000 employees. And now also what's looking at, AI is getting ready to take over all of that. You know, and then now you look at, we're having kids, parents who are paying kids colleges and everything. So all these kids across the nation, they're going to college to get a job that won't be there. And then all this stuff has been in plan for the last 15, 20, 30 years. And then when we're talking about, but no one is talking about when, you know, when they're with these things, and then we just giving all of them billions of dollars to what? To produce jobs. But they know that they're not going to produce these jobs. So that's where the conflict coming in. So you look at Amazon, you look at all the other companies, they know coming down the line in 20 and 30 years, all these people going to school, you're going to school for nothing.
Yeah, and remember, Larry, that for years Walmart went ahead and only paid people, or only put people onto for 30 to 32 hours because they wouldn't have to provide benefits, which meant those people had to sign up for programs like the ACA, which meant that you and I, the taxpayer, were subsidizing the employment and health care of those people working at Walmart while they were being the largest employer in America. So remember, that's part of the system as well, and part of the consumer aspect of insurance is a disincentive for you to actually get any care from them. Yeah, it's kind of a broken system.
All right, join the conversation. Eric, Aaron, we'll get to you guys next. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Democrats going to the mat out there to expand subsidies for the Affordable Care Act. This began in 2021, not the Affordable Care Act. That was 2017. But in 2021, they expanded the subsidies so that people up to 400% of the poverty line here in America could get subsidies for Obamacare. And is this just too much at this point? And we need to roll back those subsidies. It's not fair to make other people pay for people's health insurance if it means that they're 400% above the poverty line. In one Wall Street Journal article, they talk about a couple that makes $130,000 a year having their health care subsidized by people like you and me with our tax dollars. Is it right for Democrats to fight for Obamacare? Or, as Republicans are pointing out, Obamacare is a doom loop. We now have the government involved to the point where they're subsidizing and regulating the insurance or the health insurance companies in the healthcare industry. And as with everything else, look at education. Highly subsidized, highly regulated, quality is going down, taxes are going up, and the cost of health care is far above traditional inflation rates. Get the government out of the healthcare business. Let's go to Eric in Denver. Good morning, Eric. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Morning.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
I wanted to tell you guys about a healthcare system that I've heard, I believe, is the best way to go, or the best mitigation. But I saw a show on this, and you guys might even be able to do a show on this. But in Sweden, everybody pays a certain amount, like your Medicare deduction. Everybody pays it, and you get government health care for that. And then if you want to, you can take that money and use it as a stipend toward private health care, a private health insurance company. And there's a whole bunch of them too, from what I understand. I saw a show about this, and they all make millions of dollars too. You can have the government health care, or you can have private health care, and the price of everything is fixed. That's a problem one of you guys might not like, but like if you have a broken tibia or something, you pay the same price no matter what, unless you're in the private healthcare system. In the private healthcare system, if your doctor charges more, then you have to pay that because that's what you agreed to. So I was just wondering what you guys think of this. But as a side note, I don't like Obamacare. I think it was a failure.
That's a good point, and I like where you're going, Eric, and I do think there may be some merit to the idea of that concierge style of additional programs. We do have, Medicare, Medicaid subsidy programs as well, and most of what you'd be paying for are things like convenience. And we do have some higher tier healthcare options as well. In fact, many people will see on their employer chosen healthcare, they will have at best 2 options, sometimes 3. So they can do the idea that I will pay more and get a larger level of coverage. I think that works very, very well. I would be curious based on, again, where price controls come into it, but the thing that I find intriguing, I would love to do more economic research, and I would love to see someone run the numbers, is that if the government says procedure of like a broken tibia costs X dollars, does the private insurer then pay more, or do you pay more through the private insurer because that's how they're making their profit? I would love to see that broken down because I think there are different pressures on the market based on how that's paid, but it's an interesting idea.
But don't you think that there's going to be different levels of care? Like with regards to that broken tibia, let's talk about that. Like you're going to have some doctors that fix it really well, others that don't.
Oh yeah, we have that right now though.
Right. So there's a natural hierarchy that exists even if you try to mandate the care. So why not reward those that are going to fix it really well with more money?
Well, In this system, I think that would happen in some ways because Nick is saying if you want to pay for that person that gives you the extra care and the extra attention, you would pay extra for that concierge level of insurance. So that may solve that problem. Again, that's why I'm curious about the numbers, how that would work out.
Eric, I'll give you the final word. We got a lot of calls to get through. Go ahead.
I don't like Obamacare. And this system that I heard of, in my opinion, this is the best one I've ever heard of. But one of the things Obamacare did do was it stopped the insurance companies from refusing to cover people who are diabetic and stuff like that. So that's one thing it did do well. But basically, I don't like it. You know.
And Nick, I really appreciate it, Eric. And remember, man, that sick people are what the insurance company don't want. If you have insurance and you're sick, they don't want you.
Yeah, but that's every insurance company. I mean, if you wreck your car, they don't want you. If you, life insurance, if you're actually going to die, they don't want you either.
Yeah, the difference between car insurance and life insurance is your car insurance isn't there to cover your annual oil changes. It's not there to cover your belt changes. It's not there to cover that. It's there to cover large catastrophic, and that gets into a type of insurance that we had catastrophic insurance years ago that has since phased out. But there are reasons for that. But that would be closer to the insurance model.
Let's go to Aaron, Denver. Good morning, Aaron. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Morning.
Hey, Jeff and Bill. What healthcare system out there do you think is at least come close to somewhat a perfect system? I mean, whether the healthcare system in Canada, some kind of healthcare system in EU, we have our healthcare system, which I agree is too expensive. I think these so-called Obamacare, aka so-called affordable healthcare credits, they do need to end because they're just temporary. So what do you guys think? How can we get this healthcare quote-unquote crisis so the price is a reasonable price? We do need more transparency. How do we get this healthcare cost down, guys? How do we get it down?
Yeah, Bill's taking calls here, so I'll answer that. Transparency is going to be one of them, but government intervention and government subsidies have never made anything better or cheaper. The quality of the care that we're getting and the cost is going up precisely in many parts because of Obamacare and the government intervention that takes place there. Yeah. So I would want to see the power of the free market brought to healthcare because I want to maintain the quality of our healthcare. I think America has innovative healthcare that's better than any other country out there. I want to make sure that innovation continues, and the capitalistic market has to be brought to bear in order for that to continue.
Yeah,
I think you go to Canada. I think you go to Europe. I don't think you see the innovation.
I think you do see the innovation in other areas in other countries, and we've seen that come out. But Aaron, and sorry, I was talking on the phone at the time. I do believe that the idea of subsidies and the government system can work because when you look at something like the United Kingdom, they spend around $4,000 per person per capita, and their total life expectancy is just a hair above 81 years on this earth. You look at Japan, they spend about $4,400 and they've got a life expectancy of 84. Canada spends about $6,000 per person and gets a life expectancy of 82. In America, we spend over $10,000 per capita and get a life expectancy of 78. So we are spending in some cases more than twice what other countries are, and we're living not as long. That's an indictment of the system.
I don't think health insurance has anything to do with that. But
no, healthcare does. Healthcare.
Well, there's a lot of issues, the pre-conditions, and also as Americans, are we being proactive with our health? Are we? Are we? Apparently, we're not getting enough. We're not getting enough medical checkups. So, and also, this issue of making America healthy again with Trump. So we still got a long way to go, guys, to get this healthcare insanity down. Have a good morning.
Aaron, Denver, great call. I appreciate it. All right, we'll get to Francis and William next. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Phone lines hot as Democrats go to the mat to defend Obamacare in this government shutdown and its subsidies. What do you think? Let's go to Francis Golden. Good morning, Francis. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Hey, you guys. Hey, listen, I was thinking about this, and I don't see why this wouldn't work. It's okay, I work in a system in the workers' compensation field where you have multiple payors, okay? Premiums are based, though, entirely on risk. And all services and treatments are capitated and follow a medical treatment guideline for the particular condition. And so you can't really vary much from the guidelines, and all the coding is paid at a certain rate no matter who's providing the care. And so I don't see why this wouldn't work for healthcare. I know, Jeff, you're going to say keep government the heck out of it, and everybody runs away from the single payer idea, but you've got to rethink what we're doing. And I don't see why you can't charge people higher premiums if they're in riskier lifestyles. I don't see why that's so complicated. But the payment, the reimbursements, the services are all uniform and capitated. And
interesting, Francis.
And I know the doctors all hate that.
Francis Golden, I appreciate it. We got to get through the rest of the calls.
That's interesting. I like that. And maybe you set some of the rates and things like that based on lowest income. Had a person call off the air that said, if we started basing some of these rates and some of this care based on people at the lowest income, what they can afford, that may change how we approach healthcare. And that's an interesting way to look at the math.
Let's go to William and Aurora. Good morning, William. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Morning.
Real quick.
So the largest item in the federal budget is Medicare and Medicaid, $1.8 trillion. Social Security is second, and defense is third. And I predict this, that any insurance system that is not underwritten is doomed to failure because it creates what's known as a moral hazard. In other words, people can do whatever they want. They can be obese. They can do anything they want to do. At 65, they get health care. That's never going to work.
Wow. William coming with the receipts. I appreciate the data. Well, this was a classic Jeff and Bill show.
Yeah, it was. This is fantastic.
Lots of debate. Everything from SNAP benefits to Obamacare. But most importantly, you all were involved with it, which is what we love.
It's fantastic. You guys are great.
Go
today.
to 710knus.com to download the podcast. You've been listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS. Happy Wednesday.